Hello, wizardry enthusiasts. Today we embark on a journey shrouded in mystery, seeking to unravel the enigma that is the true identity of the Dark Lord. Who was he before he donned the mantle of Lord Voldemort? What forces forged him into the most feared and powerful dark wizard of all time? Join me as we delve into the secrets surrounding he who must not be named. Though infamous for his disdain toward Muggles and Muggleborns, it's crucial to understand that he emerged from the lineage of a half-blood wizard. His parentage, a blend of wizarding and non-magical blood. Tom Riddle, known as Lord Voldemort, is part of the House of Gaunt, a pureblood family and one of the Sacred 28. The Sacred 28 was the name given to the 28 British families that were still entirely pureblood families by the 1930s. The reason the Gaunts were truly purebloods was because they tended to marry their cousins to keep their blood pure and to retain the traits of their ancestor, Salazar Slytherin. Most notably, the ability to speak parcel tongue. Marvolo, his son Morphin, and his daughter Merope were the last of the Gaunts, a very ancient wizarding family noted for a vein of instability and violence that flourished through the generations due to their habit of marrying their cousins. The Gaunts had branches in Britain and Ireland, although it is not known exactly where they originated. They were very wealthy and prominent once, having descended from many powerful witches and wizards, most notably Salazar Slytherin and Cadmus Peverell. Because of their love for grandeur, along with little sensibility at their indulgences, the family gold was squandered long before the last of the lineage was born. Tom's grandfather, Marvolo Gaunt, and his uncle Morphin Gaunt claimed to be the last known pure-blood descendants of Salazar Slytherin by the early 20th century. Because of this lineage, they regarded themselves as royalty, despite their poverty, lack of education, and mental and physical disorders. By now, we can understand that his mother was Merope Gaunt, but who was his father? We shall see right now. Tom's father was Tom Riddle Sr., a wealthy Muggle living in the village of Little Hangleton near the Gaunt Shack. Because Merope has been abused her whole childhood by her father and brother, she has spent her life imagining that one day a noble young man will come, fall in love with her, and rescue her from her horrible family. So, convincingly enough, Tom Riddle Sr. matched all her ideas. He was young and handsome, from a noble family, so he must have looked like a prince from fairy tales in Merope's mind. He was also a Muggle, so he must have been very different from her father and brother. She learned how to make a love potion, and one day when Tom Riddle Sr. went by Merope's shack, she seized the opportunity and offered Tom some water, into which she slipped the potion. After that, Tom fell in love with her. They moved together and married. Then she got pregnant. However, the happiness didn't last much. At some point, Merope decided to stop giving Tom the love potion, either because she thought he loved her truly, or because she thought he would stay with her for the baby's sake. As expected, when Tom woke up from the effects of the potion, he didn't remember what happened during the time he was under Merope's control. He decided to leave her and their unborn baby, so Merope was alone and she was forced to give birth in a Muggle orphanage. On the 31st of December 1926, Tom Marvolo Riddle, later known as Lord Voldemort, was born in London at the Wolves Orphanage. After giving birth, his mother Merope died, forcing him to live his childhood at the orphanage. Riddle grew up in the dingy orphanage, completely unaware of his wizarding heritage. Because the orphanage staff didn't know anything about his mother, Tom didn't know too, but despite his ignorance of his mother's true background, he did have some grasp on his abilities beyond that of normal magical children of the same age, and an unusually high degree of control over them. You might be wondering how this little boy with no clue about what he was ended up at Hogwarts. I'll get to that in a bit. During his time at the orphanage, he discovered he could move objects with his mind and make them float wherever he wished. He could also manipulate animals and creatures, speak parcel tongue, and use his powers to inflict pain on others. There was an incident where he took two other orphans into a cave, where he performed an act so terrifying that the two kids were so traumatized that they couldn't speak anymore. Riddle also stole from other orphans and hid their things in his cupboard like trophies, a habit that would become important years later. At the age of 11, Tom met Albus Dumbledore, who was a transfiguration teacher at Hogwarts. Dumbledore learned about Tom's unusual traits and wanted to help him understand better who he is. So he told Tom about Hogwarts, a school for people like him, people who could do magic. After Dumbledore demonstrated his power by using a flame-freezing charm on Riddle's cupboard, Tom was convinced about his true identity. With a newfound purpose, Tom sets forth into the magical realm, leaving behind the orphanage and embracing his identity as a wizard. Riddle was not surprised upon being informed by Dumbledore that he was a wizard. He was, in fact, eager to believe that he had special gifts that no normal person had. At a very early age, it was clear that Riddle displayed a desire to be different and set apart from others. Besides his eagerness to be a wizard, Tom also showed an eminent fear of death, considering it a human weakness. This fear will be one of the reasons for which he will divide his soul into 7 pieces to become immortal. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I will tell you about it a little bit later. Riddle's abuse of his wizarding powers alarmed Dumbledore. He resolved to keep a close eye on him, something he should have done in any case, seeing as he was alone and friendless. After providing him with information about the wizarding world and its laws, he also provided Riddle with a stipend from school funds so that he could purchase his books and equipment. However, something notable here is the way Riddle's demeanor changed after the discussion with Dumbledore. He became much more careful about how he reacted to certain things and became more guarded, adopting a kinder persona. Traveling on his own to Diagon Alley, Riddle bought the things needed for school, like robes and spellbooks, along with his wand, which was 13.5 inches, made of yew with a phoenix feather core from Ollivanders. Little did Riddle know that this very wand would, in the future, share the same wand core as Harry Potter's. Do you wonder what happened to him in his years attending Hogwarts that led him to become the Dark Lord? Let's see. As expected, at the sorting ceremony, Tom Riddle was sorted into Slytherin House, a nod to his ancestor Salazar Slytherin. Because he was so good at pretending and had good looks, he was able to convince all of the Hogwarts staff and instructors that his kinder facade was his true personality. The sole exception to this was, of course, Dumbledore, who, though not necessarily suspicious of Riddle, never forgot about his misdeeds at the orphanage, nor his unsettling behavior during their first meeting. Over time, Riddle gathered to himself a gang of Slytherin thugs, most of them being cowards, looking for a form of protection, or ambitious, looking for a leader, or even some kind of shared glory. It isn't a surprise that most of them would become the first Death Eaters. Without a doubt, he did not commit the most horrible crimes during his student years together with his group, but alone. Upon arriving at Hogwarts, Riddle became obsessed with his heritage and began researching it with an insatiable hunger. He focused solely on the identity of his father, thinking him to be the magical parent, as he had held onto his beliefs that death was a Muggle consequence and a weakness, so his mother couldn't have been a witch because she died giving birth to him. After researching, he could not find any evidence related to the fact that his father had once been a student at Hogwarts, so he had to accept that he was a Muggle. It was around this time that Riddle gave himself the alias Lord Voldemort, to spare himself the reminder of his filthy Muggle father, who he later learned had abandoned his wife after learning she was a witch, though in reality he left after he wasn't under the love potion effects anymore. Using his middle name, Marvolo, which was taken from his maternal grandfather, Riddle discovered his mother's heritage and the Gaunt's bloodline connection with Salazar Slytherin. Once Riddle learned of his ancestry, it was not long before he discovered the existence of the Chamber of Secrets under Hogwarts during his 5th year, and tamed the Basilisk which dwelt within. As the heir of Slytherin through his mother's family, Tom was able to open the chamber that Slytherin had left behind to purge the school of all those who were unworthy to study magic. If you haven't seen the video about Salazar Slytherin and his legacy, check the channel to find out more about him and the Chamber of Secrets. Around the 13th of June, 1943, the Basilisk petrified many students at Hogwarts. However, there was an incident where a student named Myrtle Warren looked the Basilisk in the eye and died. Because of the incident, the school almost closed, but Riddle managed to remedy the situation by finding a scapegoat. Distrusting Riddle, Dumbledore kept an eye on him after that. Because of this, Riddle realized that he would not be able to risk opening the chamber while still a student. As such, he would use this murder to eventually preserve a part of his soul within his school diary. the very first of his 7 Horcruxes, hoping it would one day lead someone to finish Salazar Slytherin's noble work. Opening the Chamber of Secrets was just the first horrible thing on a very long list. After this event, Riddle went to Little Hangleton to learn about his mother's family. While at the Gaunt shack, Tom met his uncle Morphin, from whom he learned the truth about who his father was. After stunning his uncle, Tom went to the Riddle house and, using his uncle's wand, murdered his father, grandfather, and grandmother with the killing curse. Riddle covered up his crimes by altering Morphin's memory, causing him to believe that he was the killer. After his uncle was sentenced, Tom took the Gaunt family's signet ring and later on would preserve another part of his soul within it to make his second Horcrux, wearing it like a trophy at Hogwarts. I have already mentioned about the Horcruxes a few times, but what exactly are they? Let's look into this for a bit. A Horcrux was an object in which a dark wizard had hidden a detached fragment of his soul to become immortal. As long as the receptacle remained intact, so too did the soul fragment inside it, keeping the maker anchored to the world of the living, even if their bodies suffered fatal damage. During his 6th year, Riddle questioned Professor Slughorn about the possibility of making a Horcrux, saying it was just a hypothetical question. In his mid-teen years, Riddle already sought to make himself immortal, though he was unable to find any recorded information on creating multiple Horcruxes. He wanted to split his soul into 7, as this is the most powerful magical number, and asked Professor Slughorn for an opinion before attempting this unknown feat. At some point during this year, he created his first Horcrux in the form of the already mentioned diary, and his second in the form of the inherited ring. After graduating, Riddle wanted to become a professor and teach defense against the dark arts, wishing to remain at Hogwarts because it was his true home, and to be able, using the influential position as a teacher, to recruit students into his future army. However, his request was denied, but Riddle didn't leave before he charmed Helena Ravenclaw, the daughter of Rowena Ravenclaw and the ghost of Ravenclaw House, into telling him the location of her mother's diadem. It is said that he went to Albania to find it, and as you might already know, this became the 3rd Horcrux. Between the years 1955 and 1951, Riddle befriended Hepzibah Smith, a wealthy but elderly descendant of Helga Hufflepuff. She had a passion for collecting rare objects belonging to great wizards, including the founders of Hogwarts. And one day she showed Riddle her 2 most valuable treasures, Slytherin's locket and Hufflepuff's cup. Because he saw the locket as being rightfully his and the cup as a reminder of Hogwarts, Riddle murdered Hepzibah to steal these coveted objects and vanished without a trace. Of course, these objects would become Horcruxes too. After this incident, Riddle disappeared for 10 years. He slipped deeper into the dark arts and began to become distorted in appearance and lose his handsomeness due to splitting his soul so many times. He also began to use the alias Lord Voldemort openly. Consumed by ambition, Tom succumbs to the temptation of Horcrux's creation, committing unspeakable acts of murder and betrayal in his quest for immortality. With his soul fragmented and his humanity waning, Tom returns to Hogwarts, now a twisted reflection of his former self, bearing the mantle of Lord Voldemort. Once again, he tried to become a professor, but was refused by the headmaster, who happened to be Albus Dumbledore at that time. After Riddle left that day, Hogwarts was never able to keep a defense against the dark arts teacher for more than a year, which was attributed by Dumbledore to a spell, or more precisely, a curse cast by Riddle. However, Riddle used that visit to the school to hide the diadem in the Room of Requirement, where he believed it would never be found. From this point, the rise of the Dark Lord began. Voldemort spent the next few years before the First Wizarding War gathering followers in witches and wizards who collectively called themselves Death Eaters. Although most were loyal to him and believed in his cause to dominate Muggles and Muggleborns, some joined him only out of fear. At some point around this time, he greatly enhanced his skills in legilimency. He was able to read, control, and unhinge the minds of others, and could almost always tell when he was being lied to. By now, we can understand what kind of wizard and how powerful Voldemort was. Cunning, intelligent, immortal, and with an army of supporters, Voldemort begins in 1970 the First Wizarding War by recruiting the Giants, who had long ago been driven by wizard kind into the mountains, and werewolves who were persecuted by most witches and wizards. Due to the atrocities committed by the Death Eaters and Voldemort and his terrifying persona, people were even afraid to speak his name, and he was referred to as you-know-who, or he who must not be named. The wizarding world recoils in fear as Lord Voldemort rises to power, ushering in an era of darkness and despair. Tom Riddle is no more, replaced by the embodiment of pure evil. The central incident after the war began was the prophecy and the murder of the Potters, leaving behind a one-year-old baby who would become the greatest enemy of Voldemort. Yet amidst the chaos, a beacon of hope emerges, the boy who lived, destined to challenge Voldemort's reign and restore balance to the wizarding world. But we shall discuss it in another video. Marked by a lonely childhood, always wanting to stand out from the others, Tom Riddle had all the qualities to become an extraordinary wizard if he had not been so fascinated by the dark arts and the power they offered him. As Ollivander said, after all, he who must not be named did great things. Terrible, yes, but great. What insights have you gained from the tale of Lord Voldemort? Does this story make you see him as more than a dark and evil wizard? Please share your thoughts in the comment section and join the conversation. As we close this chapter, the wizarding world remains a land of endless stories waiting to be told. Subscribe and like if you've enjoyed this journey, and stay tuned for our next adventure into the heart of magic. Thank you for joining me on this quest to unveil the story of Voldemort's origins. Until we meet again, may your path be lit with the light of curiosity and wonder.